Everyone, I had some issues with my webcam that were causing my computer to freeze, so I unfortunately wasn't able to do webcam like usual or facecam during the podcast this time. So we should be back to normal for next week when we're going to be doing Crimson Empire 3, but unfortunately, it didn't work out this time. But here's the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, the most technically challenged Star Wars podcast in existence, and also the only Star Wars podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my friend, co-host, and sometimes lover, Corey Loses, to discuss Crimson Empire 2. How are you doing today, Corey?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So this is our third attempt at recording this podcast. Thankfully, we didn't get too far the other times, but we've been having a few technical issues, but everything's fine now. And we are discussing, as I mentioned in my brief intro, the very fun, Corey, do you want to say it?
Council of Blood.
Council of Blood, which is part 2 of Crimson Empire, 6 issues, just like part 1. Before we jump into that, though, should we take a few seconds to talk about some Star Wars news of the week? Anything that you thought was special in your life that you want to mention, Corey?
Did anything other than Hunters get announced? Did I forget something?
Is a Zynga free-to-play iOS game not good enough for you?
See, I figured we'd be on the same page with this. I've seen some people excited about this, but I don't know. Is it Switch or is it phone? What was
It's Switch and iOS and Android. Yeah.
Okay, so at least the iOS and Android part means maybe some people will get to play it. I don't know about you. I've tried to use Nintendo Switch Online sometimes.
Oh, it's awful.
Maybe it's my Wi-Fi, but you can't get through a single race on Mario Kart. And I have good internet. I've had the internet in places where it's right next to the router. It's like no, there's no option to plug it in to hardwire. I don't see what you're going to be doing with it, but we do know it's set between episode 6 and 7, and there's someone with a lightsaber. So
yeah, she looks like kind of like a Night Sister, didn't she?
Yeah.
Nintendo is just straight up idiotic when it comes to pretty much everything. They're lucky their first party games are good because their internet services are literally a decade behind Xbox Live. When you go to play Smash, you have to wait. Have you ever tried to play Smash on Nintendo Online?
I have not.
You have to wait in a line, a literal line to play up next. It's just it's bizarrely bad. So, and I mean this recent Nintendo Direct was pretty shitty as well. So, just Nintendo doesn't do, they do a lot that's really bad, but we'll save that for our Nintendo podcast, I guess.
Is that what we're going to be doing after? Because we were saying we'd do Victory's Price, and then we'd do something non-Star Wars for a week. Are we just going to do the Nintendo cast or something? Get Charlie on again and let him talk about the Zelda randomizer that he loves?
No, I don't think we can do that.
The channel can't survive that views.
Yeah, the two Zelda streams almost killed X2, so I don't think we need to kill the lore channel as well. Charlie messaged me in the morning, was like, pretty epic, and I checked and it was not. But the man likes what he likes. I can't complain. I'm just trying to think any other Star Wars news really this week.
I don't think so.
No, it's been pretty quiet, to be honest. Hoping there were rumors that we were going to get Republic Commando on the Switch release at Nintendo Direct, which I do still think that Republic Commando on the Switch will be a thing eventually, and I just think it's going to be the most torturous game of all time. Just terrible to play, and I don't know. Have you ever tried playing any sort of shooter on the Switch?
I don't think I have actually. No.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just not a fan of Republic Commando generally. Have you played the game? Was it a couple years ago? Wasn't it?
Republic Commando? Yeah, I think in 2017 I did a full playthrough.
What were your thoughts? Because I am pretty vocally anti-Republic Commando. The story is okay for the 4 hours that it exists, and the the HUD and stuff is cool and the environment is cool, but like what do you think of the game, I guess?
I enjoy it. Like, I understand the problems you have with it, and I have some similar problems with it, but I still think it was at least decent. And like, there are a few frustrating parts, but outside of those specific parts, I enjoy it because I feel like my opinion on Battlefront 2, the original Battlefront 2, is more similar to your opinion on Republic Commando. It's like I always liked Republic Commando, and I liked it before I was a Star Wars, or me and my cousin would play it before. At least he was never a Star Wars fan. I'm trying to remember the exact timeline on stuff, but I think I was a Star Wars fan before it came out. But like, I think it's something that I would take to people who were not Star Wars fans. I'm like, this is a fun game at the time. Whereas Battlefront 2, like, I enjoyed Battlefront 1, and I had some friends who enjoyed Battlefront 1, but Battlefront 2 is just like, okay, this isn't that great.
Okay. I understand where you're coming from, the Battlefront 2 thing. We'll have to do a Battlefront 2 episode at some point where we play through the campaign and report back. The Battlefront 2 campaign's longer.
We could do a co-op as well.
Yeah, that's true.
That could be a thing.
That's true.
Then it's actually a lot more tolerable in multiplayer, because or in co-op, because part of it is just like the AI in that game is absolute trash. And I don't know, when you're comparing it against even other FPSs that came out at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but that was also true of Battlefront 1. It's like,
yeah.
And I mean, there's also some maps. That game's like so poorly balanced. Like, I remember the Kashyyyk map. It's like impossible for, I think, the attacking side to win. I can't remember, but
yeah. But like, the Battlefront 2 thing, for me, it's like, yeah, it's the sequel. It came out, and it's one of the clearest examples of like rushing a game out the door to have a movie tie-in that I've kind of ever seen. Like, none of the stuff that got added for it was anything that I enjoyed. And especially like the over-reliance on heroes was something that I've always disliked in every Battlefront that has come out since, and that was really added in Battlefront 2, because there were heroes in Battlefront 1, but I never found them to be quite as big a problem as they were in the original Battlefront 2 and new Battlefront 2. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Yeah, it is one of those games that was just like tremendously rushed out, and it ends up just being like Battlefront 1.5.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Crimson Empire. Yeah, I think both you and I kind of feel the same way about Crimson Empire 2. Like, we both like number one. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think either of us are huge comic book guys. But one is at least fairly enjoyable because it tells a pretty straightforward story. Revenge plot, involves some cool time period you don't often see in comics. But Crimson Empire 2 is just not that good.
Yeah, there are elements of it that I liked, but it's kind of hard to tell what the actual story going on here is, because like there's a few of them going on. It's like the hunt for Kirkanos, the assassination of the council members, but none of it really actually ends up going anywhere. That it really wasn't at the end of Crimson Empire 1. Like, I kind of like some of the political intrigue, but even that ends up being kind of like surface level and shallow, and none of the characters really stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt about the political intrigue, like it ended up just being kind of messy as well. Like, there's like a Hutt faction, there's the Black Suns, there's the New Republic, and there's the Imperial Remnant, and there's just like kind of characters moving back and forth between the various factions, especially like the Hutts and the Black Sun, and there's New Republic agents going everywhere, and Kirkanos is he's doing his own thing, and I just felt it wasn't hard to follow what was going on, but it was like they're not really committing to anything. So
what was the council trying to accomplish? They start off by saying, "Oh, I think we should stick to Karnor's plan." The other people are like, "Oh, I think we shouldn't." But we don't know what they're doing, and we don't know what they're trying to accomplish. Like, they don't actually try to do anything other than maybe not die because they're all getting assassinated. But even that, they don't really put any effort towards actually not dying. They just say, hey, maybe we should get better guards.
Yeah, and maybe we should make this guy a puppet master and then do nothing when he actually asserts power.
Yeah, like, well, he asserts power because he's got Numenor behind him.
Yeah.
And Numenor, who we know infiltrated galactic society, and this being what he's referring to when he's talking about that, as in hiding in the shadows and speaking with like definite evil guy vibes, wearing a hood and dark armor. It's
really
like,
focusing on those S's.
He's not the most effective spy I've ever seen.
No. Yeah, it's cool that he's in there, and for those who don't know, Numenor is basically, he's like the first Yuuzhan Vong you really meet, although you don't realize at the beginning that he's a Yuuzhan Vong agent, because he's sort of like a provocateur. What are the two planets? Is it Destril? No, it's what are the two planets in Vector Prime that he's
Romamul and
also, yeah. So he's basically trying to create instability wherever he can, and we also know that he's kind of like an advanced Yuuzhan Vong force, so the rest of the fleet shows up later, but he's been in the galaxy for some time now. This is like pretty much a decade before the events of New Jedi Order. So he's, I guess, just trying to destabilize the Imperial Remnant however possible.
Yeah, well, we don't even know if he's trying to. Is he trying to like turn them into a force that the Empire or that the Yuuzhan Vong Empire can use when they show up, or is he trying to destabilize them? Is he trying to force them into conflict with the New Republic? All he does is say, "I have plans for you, Xandel Carivis," and then he just stays in the shadows. Doesn't tell Xandel. You don't have to tell the guy what your plans are. You do have to tell him to do something to accomplish it. And so far, that was like nothing. Except for, maybe we'll assassinate more people. But assassinate them, why? Because she voted against you in a vote you won? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think part of the problem, too, is that, like, Dark Horse initially wanted to do the invasion storyline and then ended up falling to Del Rey. So,
yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure, based on what I've read, that they knew, the writers who were making Crimson Empire 2, knew that Numenor was some invader, some force from, I think, even outside the galaxy. But like beyond that kind of basic idea, which we also see a little bit in like the Thrawn duology, the idea that there are these kind of forces at play. I don't think that there was kind of more that was known other than that.
Yeah, it doesn't really line up with what we later learn about Numenor and how he was actually operating. You can make it. It doesn't like not fit in with it. It can be something that he's doing, but it's not what you'd expect if you're looking at like, the backstory of Numenor in the galaxy, especially when like he's supposed to be kind of infiltrating high society, kind of is the way he puts it, and infiltrating their culture, living amongst the infidels is what he's always talking about.
As he's wearing like robotic armor.
Yeah, and he's not doing any of that here. He's just hiding in Xandel Carivis's bathroom
like
or something.
Closet.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been playing a lot of Hitman, like off stream. It's kind of like my go-to game, and it just reminds me like of just the Hitman games where like if you disappear into a dresser, like they will never find you, like ever. Like you're basically invisible. Or like there's one level I was playing where you're like in Mexico and you can, despite the fact that you're like a white guy with a bald head, you can kill like it's India, not Mexico. You can kill an Indian barber, a native Indian barber, and just take over his persona without anybody batting an eye. They're like, yeah, this looks like the same guy. It's just kind of what I think Numenor's probably doing. He's just like hiding in closets till people forget about him. He's, changing outfits really quickly. Yeah.
Well, that actually kind of ties into something that we do complain about a lot, is that there's so much cloning going on everywhere.
Yes.
And it is literally the same guy, but there's like clones of Xandel Carivis, there's clones of Fina d'Asta, there's because the Black Sun, which the representative for the Black Sun that we get in the comics is it's Marlon Brando. And he's got some Sparty cloning cylinders, because why not?
Yeah.
And it's so Grappa the Hutt is trying to basically cloned the Imperial Ruling Council so he can just control the Imperial Ruling Council. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think someone just wanted the opportunity to write RT. And I mean, I have noticed that these comics have been making, I don't want to say like token references to like other works, but it is kind of nice because they definitely do go out of their way to like, tie into other stuff, especially like the Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah.
Because this one kind of came out in 98, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice that it's like they got a Marauder cruiser at one point.
Yeah.
Even though
there's the guy who's like clearly intended to be Pelion, and they call him Admiral in one scene. The next time he shows up, they call him General.
Yeah.
But we do know at this point that Pelion was already with Pterodok, so that's his brother. His brothers, I guess, because there's an Admiral and a General, so it's probably clones of Pelion. Breaking that story now, but I think Randy Stradley said like, "Oh, it's up to the reader to decide if that's Pelion." I was like, "No, it's not fucking clearly Pelion. You just wanted to throw him in."
Yeah.
And then you were told it couldn't be.
It's clearly Pelion. Somebody also pointed out in the chat that the Marauder is massively miscaled because we see it park inside of a, I think is it a Carrack? I think at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a bit in this comic that kind of contradicts like the Callista trilogy stuff. Like, for one, the Pelion bit, kind of the state of the Empire, I think, is a little different. Although nothing huge there. But there's also the fact that like this Imperial Council is doing a lot of things that like Dala gets credit for doing later. Like it's got aliens on the council. There's a woman on the council.
To be fair, none of the humans are happy that the aliens are there, but they desperately needed a Spearmaster.
Yeah, it's
so that's why we get Spearmaster Chunk.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I think part of that issue too is like these comics are really weird in scale. Where it's like this is supposed to be like one of the main Imperial Remnant factions, and it's like, yeah, we can't do anything because our fleet is looking for Kirkanos. Like the entire fleet is now looking for Kirkanos across the galaxy.
It does try to pin it as like, oh, this is the point where it's a stalemate between the rebels and the Empire. It's like we've had that stalemate for 10 years in other works. And the thing that's really going to tip the balance here is that we're so busy fighting each other. Now the Hutts and the Black Sun are going to come in and start attacking our stuff. It's like this Marauder cruiser is huge.
Yeah, I think they would have done better if they had really focused on this being a smaller Imperial group. Like, especially like having Pelion or the guy that looks exactly like Pelion as part of the fleet or as part of the group, like that gives it some legitimacy. And I mean, this came out, quite a while after like all this timeline had been established, because like Children of the Jedi came out in 95, and I think the entire Callista trilogy came out 95, maybe late 96 as well. So Darksaber especially. So I mean, it's just kind of weird that it went the way it did.
Yeah, like if they had associated it more with the Moffs, who have to be somewhere at this point, because the Moff Council is still a thing. Like, is the Moff Council under the Ruling Council, maybe? And so would this make the Ord Cantrell forces the like?
Which was the council that Isard was like involved with? Was that the Moff? Was that the Ruling Council?
I think that was the Ruling Council,
and that's the Ruling Council in this as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's just
whether
like
it's actually the same
various permutations.
Yeah. We'd have to get a special guest Spearmaster Chunk on to tell us exactly how the transition of power happened there. Funkmaster Manos and Spearmaster Chunk.
I just love because I was thinking when I read that his title was Spearmaster, I was thinking about like in I think it is Darksaber with Dala talking about how like the Deep Core warlords have each given themselves like more self-aggrandizing names, like Supreme Overlord of all the Empire, and like I can't really think of any others. So it's kind of nice to have the quaint, Spearmaster. It's like this guy knows what he does. Is he really the divine ruler of all Imperial forces? No, but he's really good with a spear.
Well, is that like a ceremonial title, and really he's in charge of something else? Or did they just had they gone so far down in the Empire's armaments that have been just destroyed that all they have left is the spears? So they needed a representation of the Whippids who controlled the spears to be on the council.
Supreme Master of Sanitation. It's like, this is Supreme Master of Sanitation Frank. He's just like a guy with a beard, just like, hey, gotta go crush a dart. I only got 10 minutes for break. Can we keep this quick?
Scruffy from Futurama.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing. Like, I got some Star Destroyers in my shed out back. I can grab them if you want. I do like they do have some fun aliens as part of the ruling council. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a Chadra fan at one point.
Yep. Well, I'm actually not sure if that's a Chatter fan, but it's very similar.
You know that scene? You can like, yeah.
Well, they do the vote, and the Chatter fan, I think, is one of the ones that votes to get rid of Grievous, but I'm not 100% sure if that is.
You only see it from behind, so
yeah.
Didn't the New Republic have a Chadra fan admiral? I thought.
I don't remember any Chadra fan admirals. I do know that Techley gets most of the Chadra fan representation, but
let me see. I'm curious now. I thought there was one for sure. Man, I might just be thinking of Techley.
Are you thinking of like Atana Bot or something?
What is he again? Isn't he a
Dornian?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I was thinking there was maybe he was just a captain. I thought there was one in one of the Rogue Squadron books, but I might be mistaken.
I don't understand why so many alien designs in this have to be like they end up kind of looking like Given, but
well, there was a Given in here.
Yeah, but there's the Given, but then every other alien that it introduces is just the same kind of weird, sullen, sunken-eyed skeleton kind of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it just seemed like they could have invented something new that wasn't that.
Yeah, so we get a new species in this one. At least I think it's a new species. I don't know if they were ever featured before. They're called
Zanzibar.
Yeah, I every time I saw that I was like, the Zanzibar. So
yeah, you got to go up and get the Spartan laser. They'll take you.
Yeah, the great
Zon Mixel.
Yeah, so it's these. I mean, they got a kind of creepy look to them. When they get mad, they kind of just like roll their eyes back, which I thought was kind of neat. But yeah, so they're kind of just like this another faction that's involved in all this. They're usually working with the Hutt, and they end up being the death of the Hutt as well. But we got a whole sort of issue also about Kirkanos basically just fucking their planet up, which was fun.
Yeah, it's almost like the Darksaber explanation of Jabba's palace, where there's the order of monks that Jabba moves in on and gets him to help him with his shit. And it seems like that's the exact same thing going on here, where there's the weird Zanzibars, and Grappa just gives them this extra work in exchange. Like, he gives them the people to do their ceremony with in exchange for their services generally. Which,
to be clear, is like the best deal ever for a Hutt. Because he has they're basically, it's like if the Rancor was also like doing shit for you instead of just eating people. Because he just pays them with meat, basically.
Yeah, but he's running low on meat in part of the story, so they're like, we're gonna need more people, or else you're gonna be the people. And at no point does Grappa think like, maybe I should give them my giant mantis, which is probably my favorite side character in this story.
Another Mos Eisley patron.
Dr. Mandible.
Yeah, I like the Mantis too. I love when sometimes Star Wars is like, okay, we've got this really interesting creature. It's a human with these things called brain tails. They wrap around their body. Or we've got this one who kind of looks like a devil, but fully sentient humanoid. And then sometimes it's like big ant or big mantis.
Or Corin with huge boobs.
Yeah, that was a little odd. So there's also a scene that's definitely screen capable, where the hut is, it's to Kirk Canos, he says, right? He's like, make sure you stay for the entertainment. And it's just like very large breasted Corin.
Yeah, like I did send you the picture directly if you want to.
Oh yeah, hold on. That's a good call. Let me just pull that up.
I also sent you a screen cap of my favorite line when the Xanabars are going to find Kirkanos after he escapes, and they just say, "Man gone."
Oh, I'll put these on screen real quick. Save image. Oh, why is it trying to? Okay, hold on one second. So yeah, like this is one. This is a really, honestly, like it was hard to control myself when I saw this image. I'm just gonna save it as sexy on my desktop. Next time Kelsey comes down to do something on my computer and she sees something, just the word "sexy" on my desktop, she's gonna click on it and be like, "What the fuck is this?" Hold on, sorry, chat. There we go. So yeah, quite revealing. I mean, yeah, I like them better when they're sailors in The Mandalorian.
So I guess like the characters who are supposed to be the main characters are technically Mirith Sin and Kirkanos for the series, but Kirkanos is kind of absent for especially the first issue. When he does show up, the comics start going a lot faster, not because he's adding much to the story, but because all of his scenes have like no dialogue to keep him mysterious.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of find him to be like boring, generic, punchy, killy dude who doesn't like. He's starting to come around to the idea that maybe the Empire wasn't what he thought it was. Because there's one conversation between him and Mirith Sin where she's like, "Actually, my husband's dead and everyone's starved on my planet because the Emperor didn't give a fuck." And Canos was like, that actually, maybe
like,
I was told
my
wrong
years
things.
of Imperial indoctrination were broken just like that.
Well, he kind of starts thinking about it, but then he's still loyal to the Emperor.
Yeah.
And everything Mirith Sin does in this issue, or in this, in Crimson Empire 2, is much like in Crimson Empire 1, wrong. She kind of sucks at everything.
Yeah, but I mean, in this one, she's at the advantage of Kirk Canos kind of being a different character, because now he does care about his friends, or his...
Yeah, he doesn't say, "You're not my friends and I don't care about you," even once in this book.
Yeah,
so I thought it wasn't staying very true to his character.
Yeah. Yeah, more like Jake Canos. All right. Also, I know I don't usually do this, but I just want to highlight Saeed's comment on my YouTube chat. He said, "Damn boy, she kind of bad though," probably in reference to the Corin. So
yeah, yeah. So Mirith Sin, she tries the Leia shtick of dressing up
Mara Jade.
Yeah, who looks very different in the cover versus when she shows up in the comics. Though in the last frames, or in the last scene, she ends up looking more like the cover version of Mirith Sin. Like, yeah, is Mara in this? When I saw her on the cover the first time, I was like, oh no, that's Mirith. Yeah. Mirith, not Mara. But unlike Mara, everything she tries just turns to shit. And Canos was going to kill Fina Dasta, who was apparently an old friend and had been cloned and put on the ruling council. Yeah. Because Canos wants to kill the entire ruling council. So she's like, you owe me after killing my friend for the last one when I asked you to leave Karnor alive. It's like, no, he doesn't owe you shit.
Yeah. Like,
there was no reason to keep Karnor alive. He wasn't going to tell you anything.
Yeah. You know, like, if this were Crimson Empire 1 Kirk Canos, he just would have said no and then just slaughtered her in front of her father.
Pretty much.
And killed the clone, just to be safe.
Yeah, and he's got the entire ruling council in cells where Grievous had put them. And he kills Grievous, and just Mirith is like, you know what? you could just go and wipe them all out right now. They're all right there. It's like, no, enough people have died today. Like, you're still gonna try to kill them. Just go do it.
Yes, but tomorrow.
I swear to God, if that's what Crimson Empire 3 is about, I'm gonna be upset.
That is not what Crimson Empire 3 is about.
Oh, thank God.
It's about it is about another Imperial warlord, though. I'll say that. I forget it. NX Deviant, I'm pretty sure is.
Oh, that's Deviant. Okay,
Yeah.
That's the Restored Empire stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But one other thing, though.
Well, yeah, it's Empire Lost, so it's man gone, then Empire Lost.
A sad turn of events. I think the ruling council thing kind of is a good example of the issue that I have not only with Crimson Empire 2, but also like the Dark Empire follow-ups, is instead of making a new storyline, they're kind of just taking the general idea from the first comic and trying to make it like without doing any sort of legwork, they're trying to expand it to a larger scope. Like, so in this, we learn that somehow the ruling council contributed to Palpatine's the death of his clones, but I don't think that's really adequately established, in my opinion. Like,
well, they just supported Karnor's poisoning. That's basically what that comes down to.
Yeah, I suppose.
And we still don't know what their plan is, like why they're important, what their plan is, what they're doing to enact that plan. Their fleet here is like the Carracks, because we know they used to have 2 Star Destroyers with Emperor's Revenge and Steadfast or Star.
Well, there's a shot of a Star Destroyer early on, but yeah.
But they're not doing anything. They're just dying and then wondering why they're dying.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't like also about this comic, even more so than the first one. I thought the art was really lazy, especially for like, well, not lazy, I just didn't think it was very good. But like the space battle scenes were pretty lazy because they were just, it's basically just like someone Googled Marauder PNG and then like X-Wing PNG and put them on opposite sides of like a Photoshop document and called it a day. And then like for the next image, they like move the X-Wing but not the Marauder, and it's like, we good?
Well, there's the chase in the forest with, or I guess that's not forest, that's rocky towers. Those aren't trees. Where they've got Mirathsin's A-Wing and Kirkanos is like holding on to the back.
That was kind of
while they're being chased by the little Hutt land speeder thing. And you'd think they'd be able to outrun that. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a starfighter, the Hutt thing, or if it's just a land speeder.
It looked like that green speeder from Empire War. Although I'm pretty sure that's a prequel speeder, so I think that was the one from
the GN speeder.
It wouldn't be that, yeah.
But yeah, it looks like it's meant to be a Hutt design, but there's no way she's going as fast as that A-Wing can go because he's still holding on. So they were very easily able to get away had they actually chosen to. Just get cozy in that cockpit for like a minute and go more than 5 miles per hour.
Yeah, I love in Star Wars when there's like situations where you're trying to fit 2 people into one starfighter and they just like don't even try. They're like, the X-Wing's only designed for one person. It's like, at least try though. Like, They fit Hokash Ekwash in one. Like, he's
what are you doing with the picture?
Oh, nothing. Just focus on the podcast. Okay.
Just I don't like it.
Focus on the podcast.
Anyways,
I don't even know what else I want to talk about. I'm just gonna here. I'll read you my notes for this episode. I'm sure they're gonna be pretty enlightening. I took 4, I think. Crim Empire 2, Council spelt wrong, of blood. After Star Wars, I assume I wrote that because the beginning of the book uses the old ASW instead of BBY and ABY. Did you notice that?
No.
They did.
Cool.
My first note was aliens on the council and women, sorry. And then Kur and Sin both with Hutt, and then Simp Canos and Easy Indoctrination Break, EZ. So,
did you like the Dasta fighters?
What were they?
They're fighters that belong to the Astas.
Not really. Did you?
No.
Are any of these guys in Thrawn's Revenge? Do you have the Emperor?
Most of the ruling council is.
Okay.
If you load up the Crimson Empire GC, a lot of these people are in there. I don't think we have the cool yellow and red striped Marauder and all that stuff for the Asta sector, but they have a whole sector that they control. That's why they're important. But named after them, or they're named after it.
Yeah.
But I do think we should talk about the fact that Grapple lives in a giant honeycomb.
Yeah. And then it gets shot, and he's like, "No." He's just like, "Look at my house," and the honeycomb just got a big hole in the top.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that covers my notes as well.
It wasn't enjoyable. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, at least I didn't like Dark Empire 2, but at least it looked interesting. This was just really, really bland.
There's some fun moments, but I don't know. Yeah.
But at least in the other one, Crimson Empire 1, we have Karnor Jax, who's like at least kind of an interesting enemy. Like, I'm tired of Hutts. Like, oh, we've got Hutt who's not Jabba, but like Jabba in every way. Like, we're about to deal with that again when we do Darkseid, Callisto Book 3, whatever the fuck it's called. So
yeah, like usually I like some of the stuff for the world building, but there's not much world building here. No. We get that the council is there, but we don't get context for how it fits into the Empire, how big it is, or other than like Ord Cantrell, where it is. We don't get any idea of what they're trying to accomplish, like I've been saying. And as far as the character stories go, Grappa just kind of seems like discount Jabba in some ways. Some of the stuff that happens with him.
More like Crappa, am I right?
Well, we get the fake bounty hunter plot that doesn't go anywhere. We know he's trying to get into the ruling council, but since we don't know what the ruling council is doing, we don't know what that really matters.
The ruling council is literally just dying and being bullied around by a Yu Zhanvong sleeper agent.
Yeah. And as far as like the characters that exist between Crimson Empire 1 and 2, there's no actual character development for either Mira the Sin or Kirkanos. Like, yeah, Mira the Sin, we get some backstory of like what happened with her husband, but with Kerr, he
changes, but it's like not earned.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything to change. He shows up and is already different. He's still bad at like disguises and fake names because he's called himself like Commander Kill or something.
Commander Epic Imperial. Don't question it. It's my mom's maiden name.
It's Kill. It's something Kill.
Is it Killix?
Kenmore Kill.
Yeah.
Killix Kill. Killenstein. It's both two K names, and it's very obvious who it is if you put more than 3 seconds of thought into it.
He doesn't even have a full face mask either.
Yeah.
Kenix Kill. Ghost Wish says.
Yeah, like the individual. I'm not saying that Grappa is doing the same things as Jabba, but like the individual beats of that story tend to be just a grab bag of stuff that we've seen from Jabba. Because like aside from the plot of trying to take over the Empire, which again we don't know what that's going to accomplish because we don't know what the ruling council is doing. Getting the clones in there, like, I assume they work for him. We get the thing at the end where like, oh, Fina was actually selling the information or telling Grappa the information, but like the party is just, hey, look, we remember this from Jabba's palace. How Mira the Sin gets in is, hey, look, we remember this from Jabba's palace. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of boring. I don't think there's any other points I wanted to mention. The Yu Zhanvong stuff was nice.
Yeah, it's nice that they do tie in the Killix and Vong and stuff in that way, but it still didn't feel like that was what they were actually doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess that's all.
With the Vong, like Killick, you just have them out, but
yeah. I mean,
was Mr. Pinchy meant to be like a Gorog or something?
I don't think so. He's more like a praying mantis than an ant.
Yeah. Well, the Killiks come in many shapes and sizes.
Yeah, but they're all sort of...
it's not Gorog that's the big one. That's just
Gorog's like the name of the hive, isn't it? Isn't that the dark nest or whatever?
Yeah, it was the other one. Fuck. There was the big tanky ones.
I think they were just called thick Killiks. Right,
they weren't just called thick Killiks.
I'm pretty sure Killiks are only a thing because
some fucking times
Troy Denning wanted to make a more violent Star Wars book, and they're like, just kill the bugs.
Well, yeah, we got that with the with the assassin bugs trying to get Tenelka's family. Mm-hmm. It's like all the kids were just stomping on. Was it Ouroboros that was the big ones? I don't know.
That does sound right. Well, I remember like when there's one bit where Luke like destroys one of the nest ships or whatever, and he goes on. It just like describes him just like eviscerating them. It's just like it's okay because they're just bugs, even though they're like obviously fully like sapient and like not just bugs. It's like yeah, I don't know. It reminds me of what's it called? What was I gonna say? Why am I forgetting the name of that movie?
Starship Troopers?
Yeah, Starship Troopers. I don't know. That's still in my mind, yeah. I think about that scene like almost every day where at the very end where like everyone's fully gone like full Nazi, like wearing the Nazi trench coats and shit, and like they catch the giant bug, the brain bug or whatever, and they go, it's afraid, and it's just like quivering, and they're like, it's afraid, and it's just good shit.
So, do we want to get to emails then?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to give final thoughts? I think we both did.
I think we kind of just did that there. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be mean to it, but it's
a lot of people like it. I get why you'd like it. Not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's. Looks like we've got a lot of questions actually. Do you want to start? Should we start with Joel's?
Did we answer Justin's at the end of last episode? The Bradium.
Yeah, we mentioned.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
So
yeah, that means Joel's is the first one here.
We actually answered most of Joel's because he asked, was the Nam-Aimar always meant to be a Vong agent? Kind of, not necessarily the Yuuzhan Vong, but as something like a foe like that.
It just hadn't been established yet what the Vong would be fully, and even to the extent that it was set up, Dark Horse wasn't necessarily getting all that information. Because here we have yet another example of Del Rey or Dark Horse and Del Rey / Bantam not really being on the same page with some stuff.
Yeah. Jay asks,
and to be fair to Dark Horse, they tend to be the one that is more willing to incorporate others. But
yeah. Sorry. I think Jay is next. He asks, are there other clone commando squads? Yeah, there are a bunch of other ones. There's that one in Dark Lord Rise of Darth Vader. I forget what they're called. The ones who don't do Order 66. But yeah, there are.
Yeah, there's Delta Squad, Omega Squad. Omega Squad is the one that we get a bit more of in the Repcom books. So yeah, there'd be a huge variety of Republic Commandos.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the one, but yeah, there are many. We have one from Tristan who says, he's asking, this is an interesting question. The one about Karen Travis's depiction of the Mandalorians. He says, I noticed in my reading of the first few books of Legacy of the Force that the mix between authors seems a bit hectic. I think we've sort of talked about that. And you definitely can't tell which author's reading one, because if it is Karen Travis, it'll be Mando stuff. If it's Troy Denning, it'll be what's her name? The Twi'lek, Lomi Plo? Is it Lomi Plo or
the Twi'lek?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Lomi Plo is the Dark Jedi who joins the Darkness as well.
Right. So his question is whether you think Karen Travis sort of overemphasizes the role Mandalorians play in the Star Wars universe. I'm pretty sure most EU fans would say that, yeah, she does.
Yeah. Because she's someone who who takes the like the 4 million total clones, as like that is what that number means, and that is everyone in the Clone Wars, even though you could like crew 2 Venators and have some ground forces with that. And then you get the thing where like Django is like training Jaina, or the clones are training Jaina and how to beat
Boba.
Jason. Or not Django. Even
Force Ghost
Django can't survive without his head. But like,
his advice is don't get your head cut off.
Because apparently the Mandalorians are like the experts on how to take down a Jedi or a Sith, despite the fact that especially at that point, they haven't done it in a while. And they lost the other war.
They never really do it that well, but So good question though. I think that's a pretty common, Karen Travis being loving Mandos is a
there's a copy post on my Discord server about something I said about that, but can't be repeated.
Cedric asks, could you guys do an episode on Outbound Flight? We'll definitely do that. That's one that we could probably slot in pretty much whenever, right?
Yeah, it might be interesting to try to do it right before we do
Duology?
Star Wars : the Star Wars : Chiss Adventures : Thrawn : Chaos Rising : Book 3 : Book 2 A New Hope : Ascendancy's Honor, or whatever it's called.
Right. Are we gonna do Outbound Flight and what's the other one, the follow-up to it?
Well, the Survivor's Quest is technically a follow-up, but I think Survivor's Quest was written before Outbound Flight, actually.
Okay.
But
we could probably...
they're technically a reverse duology.
Because Survivor's Quest is like when Luke and Mara go to like... when Luke goes to the crash place?
That's why, Luke and Mara go to the crash. They meet some fells.
Yeah.
I think, is it Shaq in that one?
I cannot remember.
I don't remember.
It's been ages since I've read that one.
And there's I think Orc 7's there. There's the Droideka, the Vigari show up again.
Don't they also fight a Droideka in the duology? Or is that... Maybe it's not a Droideka. Maybe it's just a droid. Because I remember when they're in like Thrawn's cloning chamber, they fight something. Like some droid almost kills them. Remember when Luke almost like drowns?
I think that was just
a droid.
Yeah, they drowned Thrawn. That wasn't very epic.
No, it wasn't. They were like, way it goes, boys.
The next question comes from Gaming Central, who asks, could the High Republic series lead to a canonized Plagueis book and even a movie or Disney Plus exclusive show?
Good.
Probably something covering the same kind of thing as Plagueis did. I don't think it'll be like, if you mean like canonizing Darth Plagueis the novel as it is, that wouldn't really work out, I don't think. But we do know that the Acolyte show is going to be closing out the era, and it's going to be probably around that time.
It may be little Plagueis.
Yeah, we might get some Plagueis in that, or maybe afterwards, but I wouldn't doubt that at some point we might see a live action Plagueis of some kind.
No, me neither. I think it's because like eventually they're going to want to somehow make the High Republic, I think, tie into like the rest of the lore, right? Whether
it ends up being explicitly part of the project or if it's something that follows up.
Exactly. I'm not saying there will be like a crossover event or anything like that, but you need to have what's going on in the High Republic impact the rest of the story. And I do think that the Nil or the Nihil are not the final villains. I think they're probably not even like the mid-tier villains of the High Republic. And we talked about this a bit, but my theory, I can't remember if you said this as well, but I think the Sith will probably be revealed, although not to the Republic, but they'll be revealed as maybe puppeteers at some point.
Yeah, then we got to figure out how the Nihil get to the Nihil retreat in the unknown regions.
I saw that on Reddit today, or Twitter maybe. Someone pointing that out. Sorcerers of Toon recanonized when?
What if that turns out to be the big bad in High Republic and WandaVision or something?
And WandaVision. Have you been watching that show?
Last weekend, Dane and I actually watched every episode in the space of
Is
a
it
few
good?
hours. I'm really enjoying it. I didn't expect much going in.
Are you a Marvel guy?
Kind of like I've watched pretty much all the movies and I generally enjoy them, but I'm not like diehard Marvel fan or anything. I've never watched any of the shows. I thought the premise of WandaVision was pretty weird, but I think it's handled really well. So like it's not kind of. It seems like they're trying to actually do something with it rather than having it just be kind of disposable action, which seems to be what they're saying that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, whatever it's called, is going to be. So,
yeah, I mean, Marvel does a good job. Like, I'm not a fan of Marvel. I'm not a fan of Marvel, but I'm not like big into comic book movies anymore. Just I feel like they're not grounded anymore, which. I've complained about this a lot. I don't need to go into it here, but I do think I'm going to watch that show because the Marvel, they do a good job of getting people who aren't super hyped into Marvel, like their seats in their butts in the seats. Like I saw Endgame on like the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks just because the hype was so high, and I'll probably do the same with WandaVision. Watch it at some point. I mean, you got Disney Plus.
I wouldn't say WandaVision is especially grounded. Like it's Scarlet Witch and she's got the kind of the wackiest powers, but
isn't she like telekinesis or something and like force fields and stuff?
Yeah, she can do a lot of stuff. She's probably
Isn't she the strongest?
Than like, yeah, she's basically the strongest other than maybe like Captain Marvel or something, but what they're actually doing with the powers and what the show is addressing, I think is really good. So I don't want to spoil anything. So
yeah, I mean, I can kind of imagine what's going to happen. Like I know that there's something not quite right without having seen it. I'm sure it's like a Thanos thing. But anyway, yeah, maybe we could do an episode on that. I'd be interested. We could watch that because it's pretty hot.
That could be fun.
And the episodes are short, aren't they?
They're about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's like 10 minutes of credits in each episode, so it'll take 7 to 10 minutes off, whatever the length it says is. But
is it like a one season thing, I
don't know if it'll be more than one season. I don't know how it's going to end, but it's going until what, March 5th?
Okay, so there's
still a couple more episodes. Yeah.
Does it do the Friday thing that Mando did?
Yeah, I think it's like the same kind of 3 a.m. release date kind of thing.
I will say, as somebody who's will probably enjoy the show, but like not looking for spoilers or anything, I haven't been spoiled really. Like, I don't know if people are just being like, what do you think like hype around the show is right now? Like it seems like there's a lot of people talking about it, but like
there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of people talking about it, but there's specific things you can spoil, but it's not a show about like big reveals necessarily. Like there's some important elements to what's going on that you can spoil,
but there's not like
some
Luke
of that
Skywalker.
You can kind of figure out. It like there's definitely stuff going on and there's definitely stuff you could find out that would possibly like impact what you're expecting to happen, but it's like some of the stuff that you find out is stuff that you could probably figure out early on as well. But so
okay,
yeah.
Well, maybe that can be something we can slot in. Maybe one episode just talk about the season.
So I think that we get to Aaron's
one
question
from Aaron.
next.
You take the first one. He's asking because he's talking about how there's been a really positive fan reaction to Luke and The Mandalorian. He's wondering whether he thinks stories that take place between episodes 6 and 7, like I think probably the best example of that would be Star Wars Hunters, whether they should use recasted actors, new animated characters, or I will add also the deep fake Luke Skywalker style. What do you think?
I feel like I wouldn't hate seeing them recast and done with some, if they want to do like a show or a movie in that period. Like recasting doesn't bother me if they're doing it for that reason. Like I was someone who would have been perfectly happy with Sebastian Stan, Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian, and thought for like 2 seconds that's what we got.
So did I.
but because like they already did it for Solo, I had no problem with it there. Like people's mileage may vary on how much they like that with Solo and Lando, but like I don't personally have a problem with it. If they want to do animated series like Rebel style or something, then that would be fine too. But I feel like those characters are already so established in live action that if you try to transition characters that you know from live action to animation, it can sometimes be a little bit more jarring, or it takes a bit longer to warm up to those characters. Whereas going the opposite direction isn't usually as big of a problem.
I do think it'll be a bit weird if we have, like a trio moment where it's like Carrie Fisher's daughter and Sebastian Stan and whoever for Han, maybe the Solo guy. that would be weird if it's supposed to be, But I think the best way. I don't think they're ever going to make a show between 6 and 7 where the 3 characters, the trio, are the focus.
Yeah.
But I think that we might see them appear.
Yeah, I think it'll mostly be books.
Yeah. I think we've got a couple more questions left.
Yep.
We've got one from Jeff, who says, I'm currently rereading chronologically most of Legend of Trails, wondering which source book should I read? I know the Dark Empire source book is pretty much essential, but what about the other ones? I mean, I don't think any of the source books are really essential. Especially like a lot of the source books ended up having the more important stuff incorporated. Like if we're talking about like the old West End game source books and like the old RPG source books, a lot of that important stuff ends up getting incorporated into like the Essential Atlas, the Essential Guide to Warfare, the Essential Character Guide, the Essential Guide of Droids, or whatever that book's called. So I don't think you really need to go into the old source books unless you really want to focus in on one specific thing. Like read Dark Empire if you want a lot more information about Palpatine specifically. Other than that, like there's not really a whole lot else.
Yeah, like if you really want to do a deep dive on them, then they're still worth reading. There's a good amount of story stuff thrown in there, but yeah, a lot of it does get incorporated other places.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna read one though, maybe like the Imperial source book. That one's really good.
Yeah, the Rebel Alliance source book is a good one for general information on like
and the
setup of the Rebel Alliance.
The actual Star Wars source book too is good. Like the original one, like the Bill Slavicsek ones and the kind of the late 80 ones are interesting, but not from like you're gonna learn a lot. Just it's cool to see like, here's a reference to Coruscant before it really existed, or like here's where the Dreadnought Heavy Cruiser or the Victory Star Destroyer came from.
Yeah. So like do keep in mind when you're reading these source books, a lot of them are prequel, so before anyone knew what the Clone Wars really was or what the early Empire really was. So there's a good amount that gets retconned after that. And there's very little that gets entirely thrown out, but you get some references to things that just straight up don't make sense and didn't need some retconning. So just try to keep that in mind if you do go back and read some of those.
I was always surprised they didn't do more with the I forget the name of it. What's that Imperial the Ubictorate? They're always mentioned a lot in those old source books, and besides for the Ubictorate's mentioned, I remember in the Thrawn duology, but
it's in the Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's the Ubictorate base at Opera Sky.
Yeah, and that's the same one. Isn't that the same one they go to in the duology as well?
I think it's the Ubictorate at Yaga Minor in duology.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool to see the little stuff that made the cut and the stuff that didn't. But other than that, you can get most of your information from. I mean, you also have to think about what a RPG source book is. Like, it is meant to give lore, but it's also meant to help you play an RPG. So you're much better off.
It's giving you context information to set up your own stories.
Yeah.
So
so like
they have different goals in novels.
Something like the Essential Guide to Warfare, though, that's not an RPG source book. That's just a source book.
Yeah, that's a revenue source for us.
Yeah. But yeah, great question. I think we had one more.
Yep, from Jacob. So you guys may already know this, but if you purchase a book to the Kindle store and get the Alexa app on a phone, it'll give you the audiobook unabridged for a lot cheaper.
That is true.
It's read in Alexa's voice, so it's not always perfect. You can set speeds and stuff. So that will be handy for anyone who's looking for audiobooks of stuff that's in there. But
also,
sometimes the voice is a bit much.
You can also find if you know where to look, they do have accessibility versions of pretty much every Star Wars book. So I think they were made for like the Library of Congress originally.
Yeah.
I've listened to some of them and they're actually pretty good. Like I expected them to be very monotone. But really literally just reading it word for word. But I listened to Death Star, which doesn't even have, or a good chunk of Death Star, which doesn't even have an audiobook at all. It didn't even get an abridged one. And like the guy does different voices for each character. Obviously doesn't have music and sound effects and stuff, but it's pretty good. It's definitely readable or listen toable.
Listen toable is good.
Yeah, that was my Rickism of the day.
All right. With that, I think that wraps up Crimson Empire 2.
Yep.
So next week we're going to be talking about Crimson Empire 3.
It's better. It is better, from what I remember.
Empire Lost. And then the week after that, we are going to be talking about Victory's Price.
Mm-hmm.
Then the week after that, we don't know. Maybe WandaVision, maybe something else. But
yeah, I mean, if
you guys
that lines
up
with the WandaVision finale, could.
Yeah, that kind of does.
You said it ends on, because that'll be the 4th, or no, that'll be the 11th.
That'll be the 11th, and the finale of WandaVision is on the 5th, I believe.
Okay.
So it would line up.
Okay. Then after that, we will do
your homework.
2 Crimson 4 Empire, which is the 4th book of Crimson Empire. Good night, everybody. Corey, say good night, please.
No.
Okay. Good night, people. Remember, rate the podcast 5 stars. Good night. Love you. Kisses. Okay. 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 Okay.